All right, I believe we are live. If you can see me and hear me, please drop a comment and let me know. Just try and get this camera a bit better. There we go. Okay, so we are still a little bit. There we go. Okay. What's the date today? The 25th of June. It is some seriously hot weather today in the UK and yesterday, so I am very sweaty. Got all the windows open, no air conditioning here, so please pass on your sympathies to me as I sweat profusely for your benefit today. Right, who've we got here? We have got some questions from Airdonk already. He was in before we even started. We got David on here today. We got Ray. Good to see you guys. Thank you. B&A says hello. We've got Gary in the house. We've got Dave Smith. And Code Whisperer is here. Don't worry, I will go back to your questions. I can see we've already had some questions come in already. Wonderful. We got WY online. We got Alp Beck. He wants to thank me for all the great advice. Thank you, Alp. And Dana and Enna and Manesh, who says, hope you are fine. Yes, I am fine. Thank you. We got Aaron Johnson from Day Hikes near Denver. Kathleen is here. All right. Stan and Jennifer. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you, guys. So, shall we get into it today? First up, whoa. Okay. First up, it's hot. I've told you that already. Next up, we're back to the webcam because the camera from last week, even though it looked very nice, the quality was very good. It was constantly kind of lagging and pausing and stuff. So I've come back to the webcam because I think it's just a little bit of an easier visual way, and I'll try and figure out and sort out that maybe for next time. So that's why we're back on the webcam this week. Like and subscribe if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're watching. Hopefully you can like and subscribe. That would be very helpful for me. You can sign up for goodies right here, michaelessick.com/live. You can get access to all the previous live streams, including the downloads from them, the slides and links and stuff like that. Various helpful resources for you. Stay till the end if you'd like to win a copy of my book. Don't have any copies here to hand, but Enna was last week's winner. So Enna, if you can email me your details, I will make sure I get your signed copy of your book out to you. And yeah, that's it for housekeeping. Who else have we got here? We got Pierre. Hello to you. We got Ron. Yo, Ron. We got David. We got Vanessa. We got A. Ramos. We got Dopey Art and Maddie. Hello to you. Okay, so I think what should I do? Should I take the live questions first, or should I go to some of my pre-prepared questions? Let's take some live ones, and then I'll get through mine. I don't have too many, but you know how these things go. So I'll start right back with Airdonk, who I think had the first question here today. And he says, question, if I remember correctly, you used to share income reports back in the day. What is your average income from POD these days? So yeah, I did used to do that when I was starting my blog. It quickly became a bit difficult to keep on top of the income. And also I found that it did attract, I don't want to say the wrong kind of crowd, but if you constantly put out how much you're earning, and then people are constantly asking those questions of you and which is best this month and stuff, and it just became a bit of a, I don't know, sometimes people just chasing the cash rather than interested in I don't know, the bigger principles and the skills it takes and stuff like that. So yeah, I have put those on the back burner, but my average income from POD these days is difficult to figure out for this year. I do know that for 2019 the average monthly income was $10,000 thereabouts, give or take every month. this year, I really don't know how that's going to pan out. Obviously, we've had a big drop from one of our major channels, which was Merch by Amazon, but we've had a big pickup on others. Some of the smaller channels like TeePublic and Redbubble, and Etsy has been doing very well as well. So I don't know really what this year is going to turn out like. It could be that the year continues to grow from this point, and if it does, then that would be a very healthy year. I would expect it to average out at 10 grand a month at least. Um, and we also have, of course, other income sources. We have licensing deals with offline partners and stuff, and they tend to come in every quarter. So I don't know what's going to come in from those, and they can obviously have a big impact on our income. But yeah, I would say around the 10K mark is a good ballpark for kind of where we sit most months. Um, and Erdunk has a second question: where do you see POD in 5 years' time? That's a really good question. So I did make a couple of notes on that one because I think that's an interesting one. I think that in 5 years' time, there'll still be obviously marketplaces like Redbubble, TeePublic, and probably programs like Merch by Amazon. But I think the market will mature, and I think what you'll see is, especially in the print-on-demand fulfillment space, so your Printfuls, your Printifies, and companies like that, they will be much slicker, much more coherent operations, much more mature operations, and I think that means things like personalization, customization will continue to develop. The product ranges that you can print on and get fulfilled will be much bigger, and shipping and stuff will be faster. All that kind of production time and shipping time will be faster. So I think that's an industry that's really going to grow. I think what we might get is more categorization of sites. So you might see that, I don't know, in 5 years' time, maybe TeePublic or a site like that will become known for really one thing, and the barriers to entry will kind of grow. I think as time goes on, I think we'll see much less IP infringement. We'll probably have much more um, controls on things like copyright, and I expect there'll be, yeah, just more. There'll be higher barriers to entry across the board. I don't think it will be easy for people to just sign up, start uploading stuff, and away they go. I think there'll be a lot more control over, who's selling, how they can prove ownership of what they're selling. I think we may even see things like software solutions to copyright infringement and copycats. I think that might develop over the next 5 years. So yeah, things like that. But I do think, um, I don't know, print on demand is kind of a little bit of a hot potato again right now. Maybe 2 years ago is when it was really kind of at its peak, and then it kind of dipped a bit. It's come back a little bit in terms of, if you look for Google Trends and stuff, it's a pretty popular search term at the moment. I guess because of COVID and people being interested in businesses they can start from home and stuff like that. So I think in 5 years that won't be the case. I don't think print on demand will be a hot potato. I think that we will think of it much more like a function rather than a business category, because it's not really a business category. We've kind of made it one, but it isn't really. And I think that it'll be easier to realize products and stuff at better quality with better logistics in a few years' time. So things like, obviously we've got problems at the moment with Printful and Printify. I think problems like that will be gone within 5 years. And I think basically it will be very easy for artists anywhere to create something, to imagine a product, and to have it created on demand and shipped out, and that everything will be much slicker than it is right now. But what that means is that it still requires the same things it always has if you're going to be successful building any kind of business, which, you need to have skills as an artist, you need to have insight into a marketplace, you need to work hard and produce a lot, and you need to produce a lot of output, and you need to invest a lot of time to build something long term. So hope that helps. Kind of a bit of a brain dump, but those are just some of my thoughts on that one. Okay. Next question was Code Whisperer. In this age of uncertainty with DTG providers, many are behind or unable to fulfill orders. What are the options to create products completely on our own? That is a great question. So you've kind of touched on one here. I've looked into leasing an actual DTG printer, but it seems like it's way more trouble than it's worth. A semi-pro silk screening setup seems doable. Yeah, so earlier this week, actually, I was looking at the pricing for screen printing shirts. I was considering the possibility of screen printing a load of our current or I should say, yeah, some of our best sellers on Etsy, and wondering whether we should take the leap, order some stock, and what the pricing would be like on that. I was surprised to find that if you're ordering in low quantities, like I was thinking of for a kind of test order, like 50 to 100 screen printed shirts or sweaters or whatever, the price is actually pretty comparable to what you're looking at with print on demand. So you're not actually making, you're not actually. I always thought that with screen printing, you would always be able to get stuff cheaper. Of course, that is the case if you go for like a one color print um, on a cheapish t-shirt, but it's not necessarily the case if you're doing a multicolor print on a decent quality shirt. Um, so yeah, that's one option anyway. I mean, the downside there, of course, is that it's not necessarily making more money, and you do have to hold stock, and you have to then ship that out yourself. I think by the time you've probably, I was considering the option of buying stock, shipping it to one of these fulfillment companies that will ship stuff out for you, but not do the printing, and looking into that. And I think by the time you've added the shipping costs and the pick and pack costs or whatever it is, then screen printing and doing it that way is probably going to be more expensive than the print on demand way. So for small quantities anyway, with multicolors and stuff like that. So that's one option, but obviously the benefit would be your stuff would get out quicker. The downside would be that you are not necessarily making perhaps the same level of profit, slight, probably similar, but not necessarily cheaper. So it doesn't have that double whammy of being cheaper and quicker. So yeah, you've listed one of the other options: buy yourself a printer and do it that way. That is a possibility, but I think to do it at a decent quality, you're talking about quite an expensive piece of kit, and obviously all the maintenance and ink costs that go along with that. Screen printing is something you could go down. I mean, I have screen printed in the past, back when I was in like art school and stuff, but it's been a while. Again, I think that it's not something that appeals to me. But of course, if you have an interest in that, then you could go that route. Heat printing. So you say I've looked at heat transfer. Yeah, I don't think there really is an obvious answer. You've kind of listed them all there. None of those really appeal to me necessarily. I think screen printing, ordering in bulk, a screen printed bunch of designs. Obviously, this is going to depend on, do you have steady orders coming in for your best sellers? Now, we on Etsy, we do have a couple of designs which are regular sellers. We're pretty certain that they'll sell throughout the year at decent volumes. And so we wouldn't be left holding stock for a long time. So obviously, I don't know what the situation is with you. If you have designs like that, obviously it's not possible to do screen printing for hundreds of designs or anything like that in bulk and that kind of model. So yeah, I think you've kind of summed it up there. I think DTG providers are catching up, but they are still behind. It is a good opportunity to at least start asking these questions. Are there other options? But I think you've probably listed them all there, unless I've missed something. Kathleen says, I'm losing customers because of Printful's 28-day wait time. Also, isn't it allowing anyone to upload new t-shirt designs? Is there any other good POD company? Yeah, Kathleen, there are others. We're using Printify, using Dream Junction, I think, and MyLocker with Printify, and they are quicker than Printful at the moment, but still behind. So it's not a silver bullet. But both of those are working and doing okay. If you go to my website, michaelessig.com, and you go to best print on demand companies, there's a list here of other alternatives, and if you scroll down, there's an even bigger list here of various ones. So I basically, anytime I find a new print on demand fulfillment company, I add them to this list. So you could go and try out any of these. Most of them will have Shopify apps and stuff like that. So yeah, check out that link on my website to the best print on demand t-shirt companies. Okay, let's see here if there's any more questions we can take. Hello, everyone. Thank you. Some nice comments coming in. Okay. Where? Okay, Maddie was the next one. Hello, what dimensions do you recommend making graphics for use across all Redbubble products? I've read some contributors say they make everything 10, is that 10,000? Yeah, 10,000 pixels. Does that sound right? I think that technically, if you want to do things like duvet covers and uh, shower curtains and stuff like that, then yes, and that's probably you need to do a big canvas like that. But typically, because I'm designing primarily for t-shirts, I have used the standard merch formula, the 500 by 5400 rectangle at 300 dpi, and that will usually allow you to print on most products on Redbubble, Merch by Amazon, etc. It won't be big enough to fill a duvet on Redbubble, but you can do the pattern thing where you lay things out, or the you know um, shower curtains or anything like that. But yeah, it's up to you. I think if you want to do those products, so you think it's really going to be that important, then by all means do 10,000 by 10,000. I think that's a little bit overkill for my purposes and for probably what most of us are going to end up selling, which is primarily going to be t-shirts, wall art, a few other apparel products and stuff like that, maybe stickers, and obviously you don't need anything like that resolution for those products. Okay, Chronic Citizen says, "Hope your spirits are up. They are rising." Chronic, thank you. RBGG Burling, what do you do when Printful can't get shirts anymore? And then they don't respond to queries about orders. Yeah, I think Printful are really struggling at the moment. I know they're going all out to try and fix things, but they are definitely behind. What do you do? Well, one thing we've been doing is reaching out to people who have placed orders on Etsy and stuff like that, where we're the seller of record, if you like, and letting them know where we're up to, saying, this is going to be delayed. Would you like a refund? Things like that. And most people are cool with that. Most people, some will want a refund. Others will be very happy to wait. So I think that's one thing to say. You want to keep in contact with your customers, keep them happy as much as you can. And like I just said, go and see if there's other companies that can do this for you. There are a plethora of other options out there online. Printful aren't the only ones, and some of the others are a little bit quicker right now. So yeah, go and explore them. Or you could go down a couple of the options we just mentioned, like screen printing or something like that. Okay, David Sykes. I have a Shopify store, KDP and Amazon merch. Will Redbubble benefit me? I can't really know the answer to that question, but if you have a lot of designs and if they sell on Amazon merch, chances are some of them will sell on Redbubble. So, Amazon merch and Redbubble, they operate on very similar lines. They're both driven by organic search. So I assume if you're making sales on Amazon, there'll be some people who are searching for that on Google and they might end up on a Redbubble listing and buy it from there. So yeah, probably, David. Hope that helps. Chronic Citizen, do you have any suggestions for choosing a content manager? I.e., if I'm creating content but need someone else to upload and manage the tech aspects, do you have any standards or suggestions? I'm creating my content but need someone else to upload. I know there are options for uploading to POD sites and stuff like that. Some automation systems out there, but I've never really used any of them. I've used Merch Wizard for Merch by Amazon, which I recommend. It's a very good piece of software and helps me organize stuff well there. But otherwise, I've only ever uploaded stuff myself manually or given it to someone on my staff, my sister, or someone to do the uploading. So yeah, I don't really have any tech that I can recommend on that front. Okay, Gary D. Roberts. Hi, Michael. I'm a big fan of 60s ephemera pop concert tickets, etc. What are the rules surrounding copyright for copying direct, for example, a concert ticket? Yeah, I think that's going to be a difficult one, Gary, because as soon as you I don't really know what the copyright would be on a ticket, but I do know that once you start using the name of a band in your listings, then you are going to be infringing on the band's trademark, most likely. Not a copyright issue, but a trademark issue. And those are the kind of things that do lead to takedown. So that is a difficult one. And I think your options are either you try to sell them without mentioning the name of the band, which is going to be hard, I imagine. It's going to be hard to get eyeballs on them. Or you go some kind of your own store route where you're less likely to be hit by takedowns and trademark issues and stuff. Um, so yeah, a difficult one there, Gary. Hope that makes sense. Dana, why do you think Amazon only has a very small percentage of our merch by Amazon available? Do you think we should contact them? I have not seen any change in percentage buyable since they opened back up. Why do they have a small percentage? I guess they are still working with very difficult situations with COVID and stuff, and they don't have the capacity that they had previously. They're probably also experiencing an increase in orders, or they would be if they opened up the thing and they know that they can't cope with that. So those are the reasons they're closed down, I imagine. I don't think contacting them is gonna help. I think when they have capacity, they will open stuff back up. But yeah, I think we're all in the same boat there. We're all seeing reduced sales on merch from what we might expect. But that's the swings and the roundabouts of selling on a platform where we don't have control. So if you can sell on Etsy or elsewhere, then you have a little bit more ability to find another provider, as we've kind of been discussing in this session already. Okay, Iqbal, in a previous live stream, you said that you used to make footy designs, but you don't do that now. So are you focusing more on your existing designs, like updating listings and tags? Iqbal, my day-to-day now is quite different from what it was 2 or 3 years ago. So when I was making 40 designs a week 2 or 3 years ago, and things were growing and I was building that portfolio, yeah, that was my focus, was getting as many designs out as possible. Now we have a pretty established portfolio, and I see kind of more diminishing returns from massive amounts of designs these days. So while it makes sense for a beginner to do huge volume, it doesn't really make much sense now where I'm at with my business to do that kind of volume. I seem to get much more benefit from spending more time on less designs, if that makes sense. So I'm still doing designs, but I'm doing less designs. I'm spending more time on them, and I'm doing series of designs that I can brand and then offer to licensing partners. And I do, as you've said there, I do update listings and tags and things like that, and pull things from my portfolio and improve them and update them and stuff from time to time. But I'm not in my building phase, if that makes sense. I've kind of built this portfolio, and now I'm kind of fine tuning and looking into new opportunities and stuff like that, if that makes sense. So I hope that does. Mayank, my Etsy account got suspended for inactivity and they are not responding. Any chance of getting it back? I don't know. I would go down obviously the official channels are the only channels you can go down, and see if you can get a reply there. I'd be surprised if they don't eventually reply, but they should have given you a reason or something. But again, at some point, of course, it is not our platform. We don't control it. And if you've violated their policies, as they obviously think you have, or you've been inactive, I mean, if your account was closed down because it was inactive, then I would say, why do you want that account back? Presumably, you could create another Etsy account, perhaps with another email address if necessary or whatever, and start afresh. So yeah, hope that makes sense. Okay. WY says, how to be bestseller artist on Redbubble. Yes, I got your email, WY, so I'll answer that question in a second. Let me just take a few more of these live ones, and then we'll go. I'll go over to my slides for a bit. Okay. Wow. Okay. A lot of questions actually have come in. Darren Dean says, if you get to the first page on Redbubble in a niche with 5,000 listings, how many sales per month would you estimate you might make? That's an interesting question, Darren. And two things to say on it. First off, 5,000 listings, the number of listings in a space is irrelevant to how much you might make, because when you're searching on Redbubble, you might you're searching for a word, and Redbubble's going to return you all the listings that feature that word, which is very different from sales in that niche. That really has no bearing on what the sales are like in that niche. What I would say is, over on this Airtable I've got, which you can get access to from my website. If you go to the best print on demand sites, my blog post on the best print on demand sites for artists, right here, you can sign up and I will give you access to this Airtable base. Here it is. And this has basically a list of, 31 different print on demand sites and details on their traffic and stats and stuff. But one of the fields all the way down here is the estimated monthly artist earnings for the site in a given month. Excuse me. And the percentage of sales, total sales that you would need to get you to 1K a month. So this is kind of, I've worked this out. I won't go into the details of how I've estimated it. Obviously, it is an estimate. But basically, if you want to make $1,000 a month on Redbubble, you need to get, don't know if you can see it right there, but you need to get, you would need to get 0.06% of the total sales on Redbubble a month, which obviously is not a huge number. As you go down the list, as you get to the less busy sites, then that percentage goes up. So if you want to generate that kind of income on busted tees, you would need to. So for $1,000 a month on busted tees, you would need to get 20%, over 20% of the sales any given month. So this is just a kind of ballpark figure, but I think that might prove helpful for you to try and estimate stuff. This is based on traffic, conversion rates, kind of standard conversion rates on e-commerce websites, and then working out a kind of average order and working backwards and trying to estimate, okay, what you would need to make. So that might be useful for you in trying to get a rough picture of that, Darren. So I hope that helps you. It's really hard in any other way to really give you any kind of concrete numbers. It's just too difficult to really get, and I don't have a formula for figuring that out. B&A, hi. Are there any good online design tools you have used could recommend? I have a lot of ideas I want to turn into designs, but I'm not trained with design software. Design tools, not really online ones. I would recommend Photoshop if you can afford it, or Illustrator as well. Or I've started using Affinity Designer instead of Illustrator, which is much cheaper. That's Affinity Designer. Affinity also has a Photoshop alternative as well, which is decent. So those are the software I would probably recommend because they're cheap and they do most of the jobs that Photoshop and Illustrator do. And then I would simply look to YouTube to kind of learn those softwares. Okay, David, on the Redbubble platform, one doesn't seem to be able to upload content or graphics intended for kids' clothing. The images only seem to mock up on adult apparel. Can't see any baby mock-ups. If you go to my, I seem to be saying this a lot. If you go to my article, How to Sell on Redbubble, there are a few tips there. I think one of them shows you how to, and here it is, how to enable kids' clothing. There's a little GIF there, and it shows there's like a tick box where you need to go to, and then you need to enable it for kids' clothing. So kids' clothes are not enabled by default on Redbubble. You have to enable them. And if you go and check that article out, How to Sell on Redbubble on my website, that will tell you how to do that. Accidental Fire, do you sell your designs as digital downloads on Etsy? With the massive problem of stolen designs, which are usually low-resolution screenshots, I'm hesitant to sell my full-res originals. I don't do that. Mainly for kind of the reasons you've listed. If I sold my artwork, then as you know, copyright free, if you like, for people to use, then I would be helping out people ripping me off probably. So yeah, I don't do that. Can't really comment on it. I mean, I know that people do sell printables and stuff. I think if you're selling, I wouldn't sell designs, but if you're selling, you could sell templates and stuff. People do that on Etsy, and I think that's an interesting business model that works quite well. In the same way that people sell fonts and design templates and stuff on Creative Market and stuff. So if that's your bent and you're into that, and especially if you have an insight into a particular market that you can serve there, then by all means go get it, go at it. Okay. David Anderson says, before I talk to my CPA, where can I get some understandable information on how to handle USA sales tax on my Redbubble sales? I live in North Carolina. Yeah, unfortunately, I am not an accountant, David. I'm not sure. I would just go to Redbubble and search for that. I'm sure they have some information on how they work out the tax. My understanding, as it stands, and this is not, don't take it as gospel or anything, but I think Redbubble basically behaves as though you are the seller and they are your fulfillment partner. However, they do pay sales tax. I can see that when a Redbubble order comes through, it says sales tax deducted. So I don't receive it. I don't receive the taxable income, I guess you could say, from a sale. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. It's too complicated for me. I think your accountant would be the one to deal with it. Okay. Ron says, trying to learn why TeePublic deleted my new account. Haven't heard back. Original designs, no IP violations. Is this common? Don't know, Ron. I mean, I do see a fair few people saying same thing. David M says the same. I think, you know, TeePublic, obviously they have their own policies and procedures. I can't speak to that. I would just reach out to them and see if you can get an answer from them. You could try perhaps starting a new account, but apart from that, there's not really anything I can say. These sites are their own websites. They are the seller of record. They do have the right to shut you down if they decide that's appropriate and they don't like your stuff. So yeah, sorry, I can't really give any more advice on that. Hello, Michael. Do you create a design and put it on multiple platforms? Yes, Facebook user, which is what you've come up as on my screen. I do that. I put most of my designs everywhere. The idea being want to maximize profits from these designs. Some designs will obviously do better on certain platforms, but very rarely do I not list a design on a platform in the first place. Okay, Justice says, waiting on a tier up. Is there any way to speed it up? No, Justice, not that I'm aware of. Unless you have a friend at Merch by Amazon, I think you have to wait like the rest of us. Okay, Dopey Art. My designs and interests range from ski, snowboard to animals and others, so I don't have a set brand. Should I create a different pseudonyms for each brand? This would be more work, but the artwork would be better branded. Thoughts? Yeah, I think that's a worthwhile consideration. I think people often don't think about creating lots of brands. They think in terms of just doing like one brand and putting everything under there. And I think it can be beneficial to create a lot of things. You know, you don't have to just do one thing. You don't have to just sell on Redbubble, just sell on Merch by Amazon, just sell on your Shopify store. You can create multiple versions of these things. However, like you say, it is more work, but there can be benefits to having a store, an account that is, exclusively about this one thing. It's a bit like if you think about YouTube. Would you like to watch videos from a YouTube channel which is just about print on demand, if that's what you're into, for example? Or would you like to watch them on an account that covers print on demand and financial investments and how to sell on eBay and all these different things? I think generally we are attracted to brands that focus on one thing and do that well. And I think that same principle carries over on Redbubble, TeePublic, Merch by, not less so on Merch by Amazon, but certainly with Etsy and Shopify and stuff. That's definitely the situation. Okay, Andrew, do you do KDP low content books? I not yes, technically yes, but not in any great big not in a big way. We put some of our best-selling designs on KDP books, and they do sell, and we make, I don't know, a few $100s a month or something, but not huge amounts. And it's not something I've pursued with any vigor because it's just not my bag, really. I do think if you want to do something like that, you probably need to invest time in kind of figuring out your market. And I know a lot of people do the low content book thing with certain interiors and stuff like that. It's just not something I'm attracted to at the moment, but it can be. I know there's some people doing very, very well on it, but it's not something I have much experience in at this time. Okay. Okay, Dana says, year after year we see MBA raising base prices on their shirts. Do you see a price increase coming anytime soon due to loss of revenue for Amazon due to COVID? Um, I don't know, but I do know that when the whole thing kind of started, I looked at the cotton price um, when COVID was kicking off. So let's have a look here. So yeah, you can see down here in March. So whenever this kind of thing was really hitting, the cotton price dived way down. If we look on a bit of a longer scale here, so peak cotton price was 2011. So since 2016, when did merch launch? 2015, something like that. So the cotton price has been going up, but actually peaked around 2018, has been coming down since then. It does look like it's coming back up from its lows, but it's still pretty low. So I don't necessarily think we'd see an increase in base prices on shirts from merch. But again, there's all other kinds of configurations and considerations, I should say, there. If you're Amazon, there's obviously staffing costs, and who knows what kind of costs COVID has imposed on operations that may increase the base cost of stuff. So yeah, it's possible, but those are just a few considerations. But I have no way of knowing whether that's coming down the track. Have you found a way to warp text on Affinity Designer? No, I haven't got that far yet. I still use Photoshop for most of my designing, but I downloaded and paid for Affinity Designer because I needed to do some vector stuff. I haven't ever tried that, Myrna, but I'm sure if it's possible, if you look on YouTube, someone will have figured it out. Scott says there are some open source options as well. GIMP, Inkscape, Krita. I've not really tried any of those myself, but there are certainly free software options out there. Someone said, do you find Affinity Designer easier than Adobe Illustrator? I've really only just started using it like this week, and I'm not actually in it that much. But the first time I tried it, I did find it buggy and less intuitive than Illustrator, which I'd been using for years. But actually, I don't know whether it's the latest version I downloaded or something, but this version seems a lot easier to use, and I was able to do exactly what I needed to do, which was some basic edits to a vector file very quickly, and yeah, found it very easy. Iqbal, can you give more details about when you get your Illustrator to create a series of designs? Can you give an example? Can you please give more details about when you get your Illustrator to create a series of designs? So, Iqbal, when I have an idea for a series, I would get my designer to create those designs for me. An example is, or a guy who's good at this, is Vincent Trinidad, who does a lot of what I would call series of designs. He does designs within certain kind of niches, and then he just kind of keeps on going with an idea. So obviously you can see his styles here. Maybe if we look on his Instagram. So here's a good example. He's done this series of designs around hands and stuff. Obviously you can see the style is the same across the board. So this is a good example. He's got an idea, but he's not just done one design. He's created a series of designs around it. And whoops. And if you go and check out Vincent Trinidad, and again, I've got an interview with him on my blog. He's a good example of this. So here's, he's done some Japanese. No, you can't see that because it's not in your browser. Hold on a second. Yeah. Sorry, bear with me momentarily while I pull up Vincent's Instagram. Here we go. So here you can see he's done this series of, Japanese style designs. So these, of course, could be packaged in, given their own brand, if you like. They could be a sub brand of. So here he's done like Godzilla monsters in the same style. So again, you can see how these represent a series. And if you're a manufacturer of products or something, here's another good example of very similar designs in a similar style. You can see how these could be packaged as a series of designs or a mini brand, if you like, and that could be licensed out. You can, and instead of licensing out a single design, you're licensing out a series of designs that that a manufacturer or retailer can produce products for, and that gives them, a little bit more weight, and it gives them a bit more attractiveness to a licensing partner, because it's something, they have a series of stuff rather than just one design. So hopefully that makes sense. um, Scott says Redbubble does not pay tax on your behalf. So whatever I said before, double check it with your accountant, guys. Is the bottom line on that one. Get yourself an accountant if you are concerned about that stuff. Let's see here. Okay. See some back and forth in the chat. But Susan asks, "Hi, Michael. Maybe a stupid question, but could you do a T-shirt saying my favorite song, Hard Day's Night, The Beatles, for example? Or is that a major copyright infringement?" It would be a trademark infringement because you would be using the term The Beatles. Hard Day's Night probably is copyrighted. Don't know if it's trademarked, but yes, you are entering into IP infringement territory, Susan, when you do stuff like that. Anything where the IP, the real body of the design, if you like, is not something you've created or you own, which in that case it isn't. It's Hard Day's Night by the Beatles. Then you would be on very risky ground there. Okay, I think we'll. Eileen, do you know of any POD suppliers who deal with environmentally friendly products? I'm not sure, Eileen. I do know it depends what you mean by environmentally friendly. I do know that Printful and others have organic T-shirts. I don't really know what that means when it boils down to it, but I have seen things like that. So yeah, I think Printful would maybe be a good place to start with that. I imagine if Printful have them, then other places have them too. But you might be best just kind of Googling organic or environmentally friendly T-shirts or something like that, and looking for manufacturers, and then see which print-on-demand partners might stock those. But yeah, off the top of my head, I'm really not sure. Aikakan, are you self-employed or with limited company? How much income tax do you have to pay? I'm in the UK and wondering how to set this up. Yes, I have a limited company, which all the business goes through. The taxes, I don't know off the top of my head what obviously the tax rates are and stuff, but royalties are not taxed. I don't know, not taxed especially differently from other income, if that makes sense. So yeah, sorry, I can't be more specific on that. I would just recommend you contact an accountant. Accountants seem to be getting good shout outs today. If anyone is an accountant or they want to shout out in the comments, then feel free. Facebook user, can you speak to the strategy of licensing art from artists, and if that is cost effective alternative to hiring a designer? Yeah, I had a question on kind of a similar topic. Let me see if I can pull this up. So yeah, this kind of related to your question, Facebook user. This was a question from Sheila, who said, "My question is, what if two of my passions are thinking of t-shirt ideas and the artwork, but I'm not an artist? How can I connect with the right person who are artists who can create the designs? I don't want to open my own store. I just want to see if any of my ideas will help potential buyers who want to buy and wear the designs." So yeah, any situation like this where you are not going to be creating the designs or something like that, you're going to have to either hire a designer, or I guess what Sheila's trying to get at is maybe could she license her ideas or something like that. And this is tricky because really ideas are not worth a lot. I'll qualify that by saying that ideas in the right hands can be worth a lot, but those right hands, what that means is usually access to distribution, a following, a brand, experience, and design skills and stuff like that. So simply, someone comes to me with a great idea doesn't necessarily mean that it's worth something to me. I have a million ideas. I have ideas I have a list of ideas, thousands of them, and I can't get through them all. So the issue for me is not ideas, it's execution. It's turning those ideas into designs, which is the tricky part. Um, so yeah, I think that unfortunately for Sheila and anyone else who really wants to do this without, designing, is that you have to pay people if you want to have designs created. I'm not saying it's impossible. I mean, obviously, maybe you go out there and find a designer who is willing to work with you on something like this. But in general, I think designers want to get paid, and if you aren't going to be able to create designs yourself, then that's probably what you're going to have to do. So yeah, and similar to your question, Facebook user, licensing art from artists. Um, I've done that to some extent. I've worked with certain artists and we've taken their designs and put them on Amazon and stuff like that. But it's unless you're doing that at a very very big scale, very high scale, lots of designs, like thousands of thousands. I think it's hard to really make it work because it's not, there's not huge amounts of profit in a single sale in this space. There's not necessarily that much to be shared between artist and then uploader and whatever it is you're bringing to the party. Um, so yeah, I hope that makes sense. I think the opportunity and where I come at it from is I'm an artist, a designer. Prints on demand and platforms like Merch by Amazon and Redbubble and others were a great opportunity because I was good at ideas. I could turn those ideas into designs, and I had certain insights into certain markets and stuff that were very conducive for Redbubble and Merch by Amazon and stuff. So those things combined allowed me to get designs up quickly, and that's kind of the kind of grounding that I've always approached it from. It's like this is a great opportunity for designers because a lot of the people creating designs out there are not that skilled at the design side. They're also not necessarily that skilled at the ideas side. So if you've got both of those things, you put them together and you go out there on these platforms, you're probably going to be able to compete at a pretty good level. It's not necessarily a great opportunity for people who only have ideas without the ability to design or without a way to get designs made, if that makes sense. Okay. Jeff says, any additional courses or training you can recommend for basic design concepts and principles as they would apply to shirts? Besides my book, Jeff, David, I nearly called you. Besides my book, no, there's none. No, nothing comes top of mind. I am working on putting together a kind of resources page for my website with lots of links to resources, whether they be courses or whatever, podcasts and different bits and pieces. But off the top of my head, I'm struggling to think of anything there, Jeff, I'm afraid. Glenda says, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. That's right, Glenda. Okay, Susan says, how do people get away with images that are obviously copyrighted? For example, the TARDIS. Yeah, they get away with it for a bit, but often these designs do eventually come down and they do get removed. So it's not, people have been riding high on IP infringement stuff for a while, but it's not without its risks. And I think as the market matures, these things you will see less and less of them. Or what you might see is that they become officially licensed designs and we have some kind of solution there that develops. So yeah. B&A, where's the best place to get input about one's design so they aren't just stolen like from Reddit or Twitter or Instagram users who may be competitors? To get input about one's designs. Not really sure what you mean there, B&A. Do you mean so that they aren't just stolen? I don't understand why your designs would be stolen in the first place. Sorry, if you can clarify, I'll take that up. Dominic says, Printful's organic cotton t-shirts ships in a non-organic plastic bag. Yeah. I mean, that's something that I think those kind of things probably within a few years' time you will see, not just because of the environmental factors, but other reasons as well, you'll see things like that. We'll probably get to a place where you can choose the kind of packaging that you want your design to go out in with Printful and with customers like that. Okay. Gary says you're best registering as a sole trader in the UK. So yeah, there's not a massive difference, I think, between sole trader and limited company in the UK. There's maybe a slight tax differences, but not huge. Facebook user, this is Victoria. I'm talking about finding artists on Instagram doing really good work and pay them royalties on sales. Finding artists on Instagram, pay them royalties on sales. Yeah, I mean, of course, you could go that route. You can try that route with designers. I think, yeah. I mean, absolutely. Yeah, that's something that people do, and we've done it in the past. Like I say, I just think that if you're going to split the royalties, it makes it a less attractive proposition, obviously for you, but also for the designer compared to what's stopping the designer going out and doing this themselves. Of course, the time and the effort, but that's just a consideration. And if you have the connection with artists, if you can go out there and get an agreement from them, then absolutely go try that route. You can do that. Nicholas, is there a sort of copyright database? No, there is no copyright database. You can register your copyright, but there's no kind of public copyright database, as I'm aware. Will we see one in the future? Maybe. Facebook user says, get it, not much profit margin to share. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the problem with that stuff. Okay. All right. Okay. I think we got a couple of questions I can take now from my slides, which I will do now. Okay. So Wasim wanted to know how to be top seller artist like biggest artists on Redbubble. So my answer to this one is that number one, Wasim, you need to be really, really good at what you do, whatever that is. So usually that's things like having particularly good, strong ideas. So if you look at Redbubble right now, if we go in Redbubble, and right here we can see the top artists. Just make this a bit bigger. Stephen Rhodes is obviously up there. Let's take a couple of these guys. So these are top artists. I don't know whether that necessarily means top selling. I do think Stephen Rhodes probably is one of the top selling artists. If you're not familiar with Stephen Rhodes, then go and check him out. Very good example to follow, especially if you analyze kind of what he does. Do have an interview with him on my site as well. michaelessick.com/Stephen-Rhodes. Very good interview where he shared a lot of his process and how he built his licensing empire. But yeah, this guy, obviously, if you look at his designs, very, very skilled at what he does. Not just skilled in the design side, but skilled in his ideas and his concepts in the first place. So you need to be looking at people like that, like this person, Piccolo, who is producing very nice, clean illustrations of animals and stuff, kind of vector style, but quite unique, very colorful, very nice. And here's another one, Illustrator, again, very good designs, obviously very skilled, and producing concepts that people want to buy. So number one, be really good at what you want to do, as good as these guys are at what they do. You don't have to do the same stuff they do. You certainly don't have to do the same style. It's probably not a good idea to do the same style, but whatever your style is, needs to be as good as these guys are good at their style, if that makes sense. So usually that means something funny or ironic, on trend, and very professionally put together. You need to produce a lot of designs. Almost all of these best-selling guys, they have hundreds of designs, if not thousands. So being prolific is one of the things you need to do. And then it's really just a case of keep on producing a lot, keep on improving until you get there. I think there's really not a lot. I know that sounds very simple, but what it really boils down to is a long time spent producing good quality work, constantly getting better, constantly getting a feel for what markets you are having success in, what kind of designs are working and winning for you, and just doing more and more of that. And over time, you'll have this portfolio like Stephen does, like Illustrator does, that brings them thousands of dollars a month. So, hope that helps in that question, which was from Wasim. Okay, next question was this one from Naomi. So, I thought this was a good question. Naomi says, I was hoping you may be able to help those of us that are more focused on the less popular POD products on Redbubble and Society 6. I'm a graphic designer turned surface designer, and my work is more applicable to home decor. I'm trying to apply your advice for titles, tags, and descriptions, but it's quite thin when it's a floral design or an abstract design. Not really sure how to rise to the top. I realize the market is saturated, but want to do my best to get seen. I have an Etsy shop in a very niche wedding product and have had good success with designs on that front, but I want to do better with POD. So yeah, how to follow trends in the home decor area and how to kind of rank for those kind of things. So a couple of points on this one, Naomi. Obviously, like if you're going after the really most popular terms like floral or abstract or I don't know, whatever terms like that would be, but whatever those are within the home decor space, obviously those are going to be the highly competitive ones. So you've got to find a way to differentiate your work, your designs from those terms. So to put it another way, if you can only describe your work as floral or abstract, and that's the only angle you're using, then you're going to struggle. So you've got to find something that you can hook it onto that's less competitive. So I don't know what that would be off the top of my head, but one way you could look for those kind of things is to look on. I would stay away from looking on the places you want to sell first of all. So don't go on Society 6, but instead look through magazines, look through subreddits, look through Facebook groups, look through blogs and stuff that are around the kind of stuff you're creating, and really pay attention to those. Maybe follow people on Twitter and Instagram who are in this space and keep an eye out for trends or terms or words that they're using that describe these things. And obviously what you're looking for is trends and terms that are likely to be less competitive because they're new or they're something that isn't one of these broad terms like abstract or floral. So that's one thing, is just kind of look out for those and build your designs around those kind of terms. Obviously, if it's a floral design, you can use floral in there as in a tag or something, but think of that as the top level category, and what you want to do is get a few subcategories down and be quite specific and find something that's really quite niche. The other thing is that, of course, we're talking here floral, abstract. These are ways to describe this style of artwork. What they are not is ways of describing the subject of the artwork. So, I mean, floral, I guess that kind of is, but for example, you could have a floral design, which is an illustration of an animal or something, or you could have a floral design, which is an illustration of a particular flower or a particular plant or something like that. So that would be the subject. The subject would be the plant, whether it's a rose or a, whatever it is, an orchid or whatever. So that would be the subject. That's different from the style, which would be floral or abstract. So can you build your tags and your kind of titles and your keywords and descriptions more around the subject and keep it more focused on that? Because people who are interested in subjects will maybe be attracted to your design even if they don't, they're not going looking for a floral design. They might be going looking for an orchid based design, and then they might find your work and buy it. And that will help push your design up the rankings for those broader terms as well, like floral and abstract and stuff. So yeah, those would be my couple of tips. Look for obviously less competitive terms that do describe the style, but also look for terms around the subject and look at synonyms and stuff like that. We did a session, quite a detailed session on keywords a while back, so go and dive into that. And yeah, kind of follow those guidelines and look up Kat Cocolette, I believe her name is. She's a very big Society 6 seller. She did a great podcast this week, which I'll email out tomorrow in my roundup, which is really worth listening to. And she does very abstract watercolor floral type designs, and I think she would be a good person to learn from. I think she has some Skillshare courses out as well, so that would be good. Okay, let's see if there's some more questions here. Okay, Jeff. So Jeff says, were you referring to your t-shirt idea book or a different one? I guess I see the idea and design as two different elements. I get lots of ideas, but don't know how to make them visually appealing. Okay, so yeah, design-wise, the only thing that pops into my head at the moment is there was a course on Skillshare by one of Johnny Cupcake's designers, whose name is Chris DeLorenzo. Chris DeLorenzo. He did a course on Skillshare, which was kind of based around doing vector graphics and stuff. It's very Johnny Cupcake style, but that was a good course on designing t-shirts. I think that there is quite a lot of overlap, especially I think there's a lot of overlap between ideas and designs. But yeah, I'm not sure of anything else that comes immediately to mind. But watch this space, Jeff, for me putting out some more stuff along those lines in the future. Anna says, "Is it okay to sell shirts?" Anna, you won the book, so make sure you email me your details. Anna, is it okay to sell shirts with no inside label of your brand? Is it necessary to have a brand name or something before you sell shirts with your designs? On the last question, no, it's not. It's not necessary. And yes, most of the t-shirts I sell, whether through Redbubble and others or through my own Shopify store or Etsy store, are printed without an inside label that references my brand. They're printed on a Bella Canvas. Bella Canvas 3001, and the label there is a Bella Canvas label. So some fulfillment companies like Printful, they will allow you to do custom labels. They will remove the labels if you want, all for an extra fee, of course. But most of my designs and the markets I sell to are not really buying a clothing, they're not buying from a clothing brand. They're buying because they like the design on the shirt. So the label is not a massive issue. Okay, Kathleen says, I upload images to Pixie's copyright blockchain. It has an SVC to let me know if there are matches to find copycats, but it returns a lot of bogus matches. Is there a better way to find copycats? Unfortunately, Kathleen, no, I don't think there is. I think Pixie is probably the best out there, but I know what you mean. There are a lot of bogus matches on that stuff. I think it's early days for the technology, and I think it will get better, but no, I'm not aware of any other right now that's an easy way to find copycats. The only other way I do think you can find copycats is by setting up something like Google Alerts for the name of your design. Because what a lot of copycats will do is just take your design, take the title you gave it, and use that title elsewhere. So assuming that your title isn't too generic, you can set up Google Alerts for that, and it might help you to spot copycats when they pop up. Jennifer says, "Can I have multiple accounts on Redbubble?" Technically, yes, I think you can. I don't think there's any problem with that. I have a few accounts on Redbubble. Lulian, I'd like to ask those who follow you now if they've had results on selling after watching your videos. Okay, well, I guess I'll leave everyone to respond to that one, Lulian. A. Ramos, what percentage of your work is a collab with licensed brands? What do you say to get them to agree to work with you? Any contracts need to be done? Maybe this can be next week's live topic. Yeah, that's it is a pretty big topic, but I can sum it up quickly, I think, A. Ramos. So licensed brands, what I mean by that, or I usually use the term offline licensing. So this is me taking my designs, and the way I went about this and the way it kind of opened up for me was I took all the designs that I sell on Redbubble and merch and elsewhere. I put them together into a brand, created a catalog, and then I went and had a booth at a trade show. And then from that trade show, we made some contacts with people who license artwork. And we have since then signed contracts and deals with various manufacturers and retailers. So basically, it comes down to you creating artwork that is in line with what people are looking for, that these manufacturers are looking for, and then trying to get in front of them at trade shows and stuff, or reaching out to them directly and showing what you have to offer. You do have to do contracts, you have to sign contracts and stuff like that. And it's a different beast compared to print on demand. It's a very slow burn. It takes a while for these things to build up into decent income channels, but once you have them, they are quite can be quite lucrative once you're up and running with them. So hope that helps. Okay, Jonathan. Hi, Michael. What do you think about using the same phrases you found on the marketplace? Then you design it with different style or graphics. Is it still considered an original design? Yeah, that's a good question, Jonathan. So, what you see on a lot of these marketplaces and sites, you will see obviously like the same pun joke done a million different times, the same avocado pun, or no problema, or whatever it is, done a million different ways. Now, I've done plenty of that, not necessarily kind of intentionally, but when a phrase is in the zeitgeist, a lot of people pick it up at the same time and run with it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Obviously there are issues with some people trying to trademark phrases, and that can become an issue. But yeah, I don't think artists and designers need to be too concerned about, oh no, someone else has done this phrase already, therefore I can't do it. Um, However, I would say that I am typically looking to create original designs, and what I will often do is find or see a funny phrase that's a particular joke, maybe problema or something, and then I'll reverse engineer it and try to come up with something original on the same principle. So maybe no problema is based on no problem. Problem sounds like llama a little bit, so you kind of reverse engineer the joke and you try and find some other puns that you could create around the same topic, but they're not the same phrase. So that's typically done quite well for me. I would say that most of my top sellers are what I would call truly original phrases. But we have some good sellers as well that have been pretty generic phrases that have been widely used, and we just happen to create a very nice design around it, and it just happened to take off for whatever reason. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about it too much, but I would typically, the problem is you don't want to be offering people, designs they can get anywhere. You do generally want to create something that's more protectable and copyrightable and stuff like that. Okay. Where are we up to? B&A says, to clarify my earlier question, the input I'm looking for is critiquing the designs for appeal and marketability. I guess like the thing that comes to mind, B&A, is just Facebook groups and stuff, especially ones with designers in and stuff and people doing similar things. I think, though, to be honest, depending on where you're at, especially if you're in the early stages, the best critique for your designs is to get them out there and see if they sell, and not being too precious about it. And remember that your designs are not going to be seen for the most part, especially if you're just kind of starting out. And you don't need to worry about people looking at them and going, "Oh, that's not very nice," because it's probably not going to be seen anyway. But putting stuff out there and seeing if it sells and if it gets eyeballs, that's a way to that's the best critique you can get. If you've got a sale, that's worth more than any critique anyone could offer. If you got 50 sales, then it doesn't matter if everyone hates the design because you've got a lot of sales coming in. Okay. Code Whisperer says, for copycats, you may want to try TinEye image search. Yeah, that's another option. Glenda says, a big yes from me, Lulian. I took his advice, uploaded his design, and sold my first tea 2 days later on Redbubble. Wonderful. Thank you, Glenda. Glad to hear that happened for you. Kathleen, I hope no one copies an original phrase I come up with. Yeah, unfortunately, probably is going to happen sooner or later. Happens a lot to me, but that's the state of the union right now. You will learn more sales, says SA. Thank you for that. Kathleen says, I've been following Michael for years. He's the only reason I stuck with it. Okay, cool. All right. I think maybe just take one more of these pre-prepared questions, and then I think we'll wrap it up for today. Okay, yeah, this is a good one. I think this will be good. So this is a question from Aaron. Aaron says, I'm new to all this. I have a non-t-shirt related website with 1.5 million visitors a year. I launched a store and not bringing in many sales, perhaps one sale a week. No surprise, build it and they don't necessarily come, but I've got little margin to promote because of my full-time job. Wondering what the 1 to 3 practices I should put in place that would make a difference. What would 20% of things that could get me the results, etc. So yeah, Aaron's got a website and he's got lots of visitors. It's not related to e-commerce, so it's not an e-commerce website. It's really, I guess you could call it an information site. And so he's got getting lots of visitors, and he's trying to just basically sell merch. You might say he's trying to sell related merch to his visitors. Yeah, a couple of things I would say, Aaron. Number one, I have had a quick look at your site, by the way, and I do have some ideas on what you could do better. I think one thing you could do is think about how you can tell a story that motivates your audience. Now, I don't pretend to know much about your audience, but every audience has trends, topics of discussion, things that animate them and discussions that go on. So I would say, is there some way you could create designs are really around a story or some kind of topic like that? So something that's, I don't know what exactly that thing would be for your audience, but are there phrases they say that kind of, or are there in jokes within that community that you can kind of play on? My guess is there are, and you probably, maybe something's coming to mind as I'm saying this, but something like that rather than simply generic designs, because I see that some of your designs are pretty, not that they're not bad quality designs, but they're not necessarily, they are kind of generic-y looking. I assume you have an email list and stuff, and I assume you've done some marketing to that. But I think that would be kind of my main way to drive eyeballs and get some eyeballs on the products you're selling. Maybe to do some more of that on the website as well, maybe through like modal pop-ups or some big ads on the most visited web pages that might get you some more traffic back to the store areas. And then maybe just kind of think, because from looking at your store on your website, I did think that the products do look a little generic, and they are, of course, all t-shirts. Whether you could put together something that's a bit more specific, for example, maybe some kind of book or some kind of package. You could do a package deal with a t-shirt and a book and a poster or something. You could do a map poster that's specific to the kind of people you're going after. So yeah, a few ideas there. I hope that kind of helps you, Aaron. I am starting to offer some private consultancy. So if you're interested, Aaron, I do have some more detailed ideas. And if you want to email me about that, I can give you some more details on private consultancy options for you. Okay. I think I'll take a couple more last questions from the live and then we'll wrap it up. Okay. Oh, I think we kind of answered everything, actually. I think. If you had a question that I didn't get to, please post it really quickly, and I'll try and answer it as soon as I can. Susan says, have you done a video about the best way to do research on keywords and finding niches? Susan, we have done a video on keywords specifically, less so on... Oh, yeah, we did a video on how to approach a saturated market, which I guess you could overlap that with finding niches. That's probably the most helpful on that front. So yeah, go to my YouTube channel. You should see those videos. Should be quite easy to find those, and they are long like this one and quite exhaustive, but they should be quite helpful. And make sure you sign up michaelessick.com/live, and you can get these slides and any resources from those videos. So you have all the notes, you can peruse them at your own leisure, and yeah, hopefully that will help you out. Okay, I think we'll wrap it up there. So if you'd like to win a copy of my book, which, let me see if I can find one. Looks something like that. Little book of t-shirt ideas. If you want a signed copy, this is an older version. You would get a nice new one not this one, but I will sign a nice new one, send it off to you. All you have to do is comment after this video finishes. Once it's over, not in the live, but underneath on YouTube. Tell me what you got out of it. If you got anything out of it, let me know. And yeah, I will pick one at random this time next week. And you could win a copy of my little book of t-shirt ideas. Contains 14 different ideas, lots of examples to help you generate ideas very quickly. It could be yours. Just comment after we finish this here today. Okay. Let's see. I think that was it. Ron says, thanks again, Michael. Very helpful and motivational as always. Thank you, Ron. Gary says, great advice as always. Thank you, Gary. Yes, thank you all for joining me. I do hope you got something out of it today. Hopefully the temperature will be a little bit less next week. I won't be sweating so much. And yeah, join me next week, same time. Thank you, Susan. And we'll do something cool next week as well, I'm sure. All right. Okay, guys, thank you very much for your time today. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening and the weekend, and I'll catch you all next week. Oh, make sure you subscribe to get the resources, and tomorrow's email is going to be a good one. There's a lot of resources, a lot of news to share tomorrow. It's going to be a bumper edition of my weekly roundup email, so make sure you have signed up so you can get that, because otherwise you won't know what's going on in print on demand world, and there's a lot that happened this week. So make sure you're signed up. michaelessick.com/live if you aren't already. Normandy says thank you. Ray says thank you. Emily says thank you. Thank you to you all. Thank you, Eileen. Thank you, Day Hikes. Thank you, Jennifer. And Vanessa, Kathleen. All right. Okay. I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you, guys. See you later. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.